In the dawn of an age along the quiet shores of a vast bay, a modest village known as Edo stirred beneath gray skies and salt-laced winds. Fishermen cast their nets into gentle tides, unaware that history's gaze had already turned toward them. Far beyond these waters, power in Japan was shifting, warlords clashed, alliances fractured, and ambition burned. Into this fragile world stepped Tokugawa Ieyasu, a man whose vision would transform silence into destiny. By the dawn of the 17th century, victory in the decisive Battle of Sekigahara had secured Tokugawa Ieyasu's dominance. Edo, once a quiet outpost, was reborn as the seat of the Tokugawa shogunate. Canals carved through marshlands, roads stretched outward like veins, and towering castles rose from the earth. Samurai flooded the city, merchants followed, and with them, a rigid order took shape. Yet beneath this growing stability, tension lingered, an isolationist policy closing Japan to the world, even as Edo pulsed with life, an unseen chain. For over 2 centuries, Edo flourished in disciplined isolation, its streets alive with artisans, scholars, and the quiet rhythm of controlled peace. But beyond Japan's shores, the world was changing, and in 1868, with the fall of the shogunate and the rise of the Meiji Restoration, Edo was reborn as Tokyo, the eastern capital. From the ashes of feudal rule, a new era emerged, one that would propel Japan toward modernity and set the stage for a transformation unlike any before. In the dawn of an age along the quiet edge of Tokyo Bay, a small settlement known as Edo lived in harmony with the sea. Wooden boats drifted over calm waters, fishermen hauled in their daily catch, and narrow paths wound between humble dwellings. Far from the imperial grandeur of Kyoto, Edo remained largely unnoticed, its people bound to tides, not politics. Yet beneath this stillness, geography whispered promise, a sheltered harbor, and pathways leading inland toward opportunity. As seasons passed, Edo's quiet advantages grew impossible to ignore. Its position along vital waterways allowed goods, people, and ideas to flow with increasing ease. Traders arrived with rice, timber, and salt. Small markets formed, echoing with the sounds of barter and ambition. Meanwhile, across Japan, power remained concentrated under the imperial court in Kyoto, leaving regions like Edo untouched, yet vulnerable. It was this very obscurity that made it attractive, an unclaimed prize waiting for a visionary, a place where influence could be built from the ground up. Thus, Edo remained a quiet village, yet no longer insignificant. Its sheltered waters and inland reach had begun to shape a future few could yet imagine. In time, powerful figures would recognize its potential, transforming simplicity into strategy. What was once overlooked would soon become contested. From these humble shores, destiny gathered strength, preparing Edo for the arrival of men who would reshape Japan itself and usher this forgotten village into the center of history. Beneath the shadow of shifting empires, the dawn of the 17th century marked a decisive turning point for Japan. Following his victory at the Battle of Sekigahara, Tokugawa Ieyasu emerged as the unchallenged power of the realm. Far from the imperial court in Kyoto, he chose Edo as the seat of his rule. What was once a quiet village now stood on the edge of transformation as ambition, discipline, and vision converged to reshape its destiny. With the founding of the Tokugawa shogunate in 1603, Edo became the beating heart of authority. Vast construction projects reshaped the land, moats carved through earth, bridges spanned growing canals, and the formidable Edo Castle rose as a symbol of dominance. Daimyo were summoned to reside under watchful eyes, binding loyalty through presence. Streets filled with samurai, officials, and laborers, a city expanding with controlled precision. Yet beneath this order, power demanded obedience, and tension lingered in every silent bow. Thus, Edo transformed into the epicenter of control, a city where authority was carefully engineered and power meticulously maintained. Through policies like Sankin Keitai, loyalty was enforced, and the nation held in delicate balance. While the emperor remained in Kyoto, true command flowed from Edo's fortified heart. Order had been achieved, but at a cost. Beneath its structured calm, change was inevitable, and as the city grew, so too did the forces that would one day challenge its rule. In the early 17th century, beneath the disciplined gaze of the Tokugawa shogunate, Japan turned inward. Through the policy of Sakoku, foreign influence was tightly restricted, sealing the nation from much of the outside world. At the heart of this isolation stood Edo, a city growing in silence, order, and precision. Streets expanded in careful grids, and wooden homes clustered beneath drifting smoke and seasonal winds. Beneath this calm surface, an entire civilization was being reshaped, disciplined, controlled, and carefully preserved. By the 18th century, Edo had grown into one of the largest cities in the world, its population swelling with samurai, merchants, and artisans. Society was bound by rigid hierarchy, each class assigned a place, a duty, and a limit. The rhythm of life was steady, almost mechanical, yet deeply alive in its own structure. In the crowded districts, theaters echoed with kabuki performances, while woodblock prints captured fleeting beauty in ink. Despite isolation, culture flourished under pressure, transforming constraint into creativity. Yet beneath this artistic brilliance, the absence of external influence began to weigh, quietly shaping a fragile equilibrium. Thus, Edo stood as a paradox of its age, isolated from the world, yet bursting with internal vitality. The peace of the Tokugawa order had brought stability unmatched in centuries, but it also sealed Japan within its own boundaries. While culture and identity deepened, the outside world advanced beyond its reach. Beneath this calm surface, change was slowly gathering, waiting beyond the horizon. And from this carefully preserved world, the pressure of the unknown would soon arrive, setting the stage for an irreversible transformation. In the mid-19th century, beneath the fading certainty of the Tokugawa shogunate, Japan stood at the edge of irreversible change. For over 2 centuries, Sakoku had sealed the nation from the outside world, preserving stability within Edo. But beyond the horizon, Western powers advanced with steam, steel, and ambition. The stillness was about to break, as unfamiliar ships approached Japan's shores, carrying the weight of a new global order. In 1853, black-hulled ships appeared in Edo Bay under the command of Matthew C. Perry, shattering centuries of enforced silence. His arrival forced Japan to open negotiations, leading to the unequal treaties that followed. Within Edo, tension surged through crowded streets, samurai debated honor, officials struggled with pressure, and uncertainty seeped into daily life. The authority of the Tokugawa order began to fracture, as foreign demands exposed weaknesses long hidden beneath isolation's surface, and the city stood on the edge of political unraveling. From this moment, Edo was no longer untouched by the world. Internal unrest grew as confidence in the shogunate weakened, while reformist voices called for restoration of imperial authority in Kyoto. What had once been a carefully preserved system now trembled under global pressure. The foundations of isolation cracked open, revealing an era reaching its end. And as Edo faced this mounting crisis, it unknowingly stepped toward collapse and rebirth, marking the final turning point before the fall of an age that had defined Japan for centuries. In the aftermath of collapse, Japan stood at a historic crossroads. The authority of the Tokugawa shogunate had fallen, and in its place rose the restored imperial rule of the Meiji Restoration. Beneath the shadow of centuries-old tradition, power shifted from Kyoto toward a restless future. At the heart of this transformation lay Edo, a city about to lose its name and gain a new identity that would redefine an entire nation. In 1868, Edo was officially renamed Tokyo, the eastern capital. The imperial court moved its residence, symbolizing a decisive break from the past. Streets once ruled by samurai now echoed with the urgency of reform. Feudal domains were abolished, and centralized governance began to take shape under the new Meiji leadership. Western technologies, uniforms, and institutions entered the city rapidly, reshaping its rhythm. Wooden districts still stood beside emerging modern structures, creating a striking contrast between centuries. As Japan accelerated toward an unfamiliar future, it could no longer delay. From this transformation, Tokyo emerged not just as a renamed city, but as the political and symbolic heart of a modern nation. The relocation of power marked the beginning of rapid industrialization, military reform, and global engagement. What was once Edo's quiet order was now replaced by ambition on a national scale. Tradition did not disappear, it adapted, reshaped within the new identity of Tokyo, and thus began an era that would change the world as Japan stepped forward from isolation into the rising currents of global modernity. In the closing decades of the 19th century, Tokyo stood at the forefront of a national awakening. Under the momentum of the Meiji Restoration, Japan's leadership pushed aggressively toward modernization. The silence of wooden streets began to fade, replaced by the rhythm of machinery and reform. Beneath overcast skies and rising smoke, Tokyo transformed into a laboratory of change, where tradition and innovation collided in real time, shaping a new identity for a rising nation. Railways cut through the city like steel arteries, connecting districts and accelerating daily life. Factories rose along the edges of Tokyo, their chimneys releasing constant plumes into the sky. Western-style brick buildings appeared beside ancient wooden homes, creating a stark visual contrast of eras overlapping. Education reforms established modern schools, while military restructuring strengthened national power. Every street carried the tension of transformation, old customs fading, new systems emerging. Tokyo was no longer just adapting, it was being rebuilt at its core, driven by urgency and ambition, yet not without resistance beneath it. From this accelerated transformation, Tokyo emerged as the living engine of modern Japan, industrial, disciplined, and outward-looking. Progress brought power, but also friction between inherited traditions and imported ideals. Yet the city continued forward, absorbing change into its identity rather than resisting it. From the ashes of a feudal past, a modern metropolis was taking shape. And as the 20th century approached, Tokyo stood ready, no longer a city in transition, but a nation's heartbeat driving toward an uncertain global future. In the early 20th century, Tokyo stood as the command center of a rising power. Emerging from decades of rapid modernization, Japan now turned its gaze beyond its shores. Beneath the shadow of global empires, national ambition intensified under a new era of state-driven expansion. Political leaders and military planners gathered in Tokyo's evolving districts, where modern offices replaced old wooden structures. The city pulsed with confidence and a growing sense that Japan's future lay far beyond its islands. That ambition was tested in the Russo-Japanese War, a conflict that shocked the world. From Tokyo's strategic centers, decisions flowed through modernized military institutions and imperial command. When victory was secured, Japan's status transformed. No longer a regional power, but an emerging global force. Crowds filled the streets of Tokyo in celebration, lanterns glowing beneath electric lights. As newspapers spread news of triumph across the nation. Yet behind the pride, the machinery of expansion continued to accelerate, shaping policies, alliances, and a growing imperial vision that extended far beyond Japan's borders. From this era of victory, Tokyo solidified its role as the political and military nerve center of an expanding empire. Infrastructure, industry, and governance were increasingly aligned with national power projection. But beneath the surface of triumph, the demands of expansion carried deeper consequences, straining resources and reshaping society's priorities. The city that once symbolized modernization now also embodied ambition on a global scale. And as Japan moved further into the 20th century, the path it had chosen would lead toward both remarkable achievement and unfolding historical tension yet to come. In the early decades of the 20th century, Tokyo stood as a symbol of modern ambition, expanding railways, dense neighborhoods, and rising industry. But beneath this progress, the ground itself would soon rebel. On September 1, 1923, disaster struck during the Great Kanto earthquake. Without warning, the earth ruptured, and the city was thrown into chaos. Buildings collapsed, fires erupted, and the once ordered capital was engulfed in destruction. Within moments, Tokyo transformed into a landscape of smoke and ruin. Wooden structures fueled uncontrollable fires that swept through entire districts, while aftershocks kept the city in constant fear. over 100,000 lives were lost as streets vanished beneath debris and ash. Emergency response struggled against collapsing infrastructure, revealing the fragility beneath modernization. Yet even as night fell over devastation, survivors began to gather in the ruins, searching for family, shelter, and meaning amid the silence left by catastrophe. From this tragedy, Tokyo began an extraordinary reconstruction. New urban planning, reinforced architecture, and modern infrastructure reshaped the city into a more resilient capital. But history would not allow peace to last. In the coming decades, the fires of World War II would strike even harder, reducing vast sections of Tokyo to ashes once again. And yet, from every collapse, the city would rise, carrying forward a legacy defined not by destruction alone, but by an unbreakable will to rebuild. In the wake of 1945, Tokyo emerged from the devastation of World War II as a city reduced to ash and silence. Streets once filled with industry and life now lay fractured under rubble and smoke-stained skies. Under the Allied occupation, led by Douglas MacArthur, Japan entered an era of forced transformation. The weight of defeat pressed heavily on the nation as Tokyo faced the daunting task of rebuilding not just its structures, but its identity. Under the Allied occupation authority, sweeping reforms reshaped every layer of Japanese society. The imperial system was redefined, militarism dismantled, and a new constitution introduced democratic principles. In Tokyo, administrative buildings replaced wartime command centers, while displaced citizens returned to a city still scarred by destruction. Markets reopened in makeshift streets, and the hum of reconstruction slowly replaced the silence of ruins. Yet hardship remained. Food shortages, housing crises, and uncertainty about the future weighed heavily on daily life as a nation struggled to find stability in a completely altered world order. From these difficult beginnings, Tokyo began a gradual yet determined recovery. Infrastructure was rebuilt, industries restarted, and new democratic institutions took root across the capital. What emerged was not a return to the past, but the formation of a new national identity shaped by resilience and reform. From the ashes of defeat, Japan redefined itself as a peaceful, modern state. And as Tokyo moved forward into the mid-20th century, it stood once again at the center of transformation, ready to rise into an era of extraordinary economic rebirth. In the 1960s, Tokyo stood at the center of a nation reborn. Less than 2 decades after devastation, Japan entered a period of extraordinary economic acceleration known as the post-war recovery era. Skyscrapers began to rise above reconstructed streets, and highways cut through once ruined districts. Beneath this transformation lay a powerful national determination to prove that recovery could become reinvention. All eyes turned toward a defining moment, the arrival of the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. The 1964 Tokyo Olympics became a global stage for Japan's rebirth. High-speed trains like the Shinkansen connected cities with unprecedented speed, while modern highways and airports reshaped national mobility. In Tokyo, newly built stadiums, expressways, and communication systems reflected a country fully embracing technological advancement. Crowds filled freshly modernized streets as international visitors witnessed a nation that had risen from ruins to innovation. Yet behind the celebration was relentless industrial expansion, factories operating at full capacity, finance systems evolving, and a society adjusting to rapid urban transformation. From this historic turning point, Tokyo emerged as a global center of technology, finance, and culture. The success of the Olympics symbolized not only recovery, but full re-entry into the international community. Japan's rapid economic growth reshaped daily life, elevating living standards and redefining urban identity. From the ashes of war, a modern metropolis had been forged, efficient, dynamic, and globally connected. And as the city moved beyond the 1960s, Tokyo stood ready to enter an even more complex era of globalization and transformation. By the late 20th century, Tokyo had fully transformed into a towering metropolis of glass, steel, and light. Rising above the foundations of post-war reconstruction Skyscrapers reshaped the skyline, reflecting Japan's position as a global technological leader. Districts such as Shinjuku and Shibuya pulsed with energy, neon signs flickering through night rain, crowded crossings moving like synchronized motion. Beneath this brilliance, the city carried centuries of memory, layered beneath modern ambition. In Shinjuku, financial towers and entertainment districts rose side by side, reflecting Tokyo's rapid urban expansion. Meanwhile, Shibuya became a symbol of youth culture and constant movement, its intersections crowded with shifting tides of humanity under glowing advertisement. Advanced rail systems and digital infrastructure connected the city with precision, reinforcing Japan's status as a technological powerhouse. Yet even amid this futuristic rhythm, quiet pockets of history remained. Ancient shrines, narrow alleys, and seasonal festivals, continuing their centuries-old cycles, resisting disappearance beneath modern acceleration. Thus, Tokyo evolved into a living paradox where neon-lit innovation and ancient tradition coexisted within the same breath of the city. The past was not erased, but layered beneath the future, shaping identity through continuity rather than conflict. From temple bells echoing near digital billboards to rituals performed beside modern highways, Tokyo embodied both memory and progress. And as the 21st century approached, the city stood not divided by time, but defined by its ability to carry both history and tomorrow within a single, unbroken skyline. In the dawn of the 21st century, Tokyo stands as one of the most influential urban centers on Earth. A city defined by precision, innovation, and constant movement, it rises from centuries of transformation. Bullet trains cut across the nation with silent speed, while digital networks pulse beneath its street. Yet beneath this modern rhythm lies a deeper foundation, built through eras of war, reconstruction, and reinvention. Tokyo is not merely a capital, it is the outcome of history's longest experiment in resilience. From early morning rush hours to neon-lit nights, Tokyo operates as a living system in constant motion. Financial districts command global markets, while districts like Shinjuku and Shibuya remain symbols of urban energy and cultural evolution. Yet within this futuristic rhythm, tradition still breathes quietly. Centuries-old shrines stand between skyscrapers, and seasonal festivals continue to mark time as they have for generations. This coexistence defines Tokyo's identity, not a break from the past, but an ongoing conversation with it. Thus, Tokyo endures as a city forged through centuries of transformation, where destruction became rebuilding and isolation became global connection. Its story is not one of sudden greatness, but of continuous adaptation across time. From fishing village to imperial capital, from ashes of war to neon metropolis, every era remains embedded within its streets. And as the city moves forward, it carries a timeless lesson that true strength is not permanence, but the ability to evolve endlessly, shaping not only Japan's future, but the rhythm of the modern world.